The views expressed on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Recovery Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this episode should not be taken as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. KHLT and Take 12 Recovery Radio are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Well, greetings, my friends. I am the Montyman from Take 12 Recovery Radio, and this is the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. And now, here are your Came to Believe Recovery podcasting broadcasters to launch us forth on this week's show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. My name is Alicea, and I am here with the Montyman and Tom. And Montyman has a cute little hat on with ear muffies.
It's mighty cold up here in the Yukon. If you don't bundle it up, you can't get much firewood cut in the Yukon. You gotta be bundled up, like a bundle. All bundled up. You know? Oh, wait.
Oh, what's he gonna do now?
Whee! Look at that. Look at that light. That's light.
Oh,
It's
pretty
Christmas time.
wreath.
Christmas. It's December in the Yukon.
Christmas.
Christmas.
Somehow I felt we were going to be spared, Alicia, or something.
Poor Tom.
It looked like we were going to get spared. Hogan's Hero. That's what that was.
Hogan's Heroes. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that one.
Yep.
All right, yeah, that's a
Go
good
ahead.
one.
Did you say you had a question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
There's only one right answer, but I'll ask you anyway. All right? Or there's a right answer, right? Is when you put up your Christmas tree, right? Well, first of all, real or fake? I already know Alicia's is fake because she took a picture of it.
I put it up.
Do you get real or fake, Monty?
I don't want to answer that question.
Fake?
Fake.
I'm so... Talk about trauma. This is a small T, or maybe big T trauma.
That's our topic, by the way.
That
Trauma.
people are not getting real trees. Everyone I know has got a fake tree. I don't know anyone. Rowdy, fake tree.
Well, doesn't it save the world if we don't cut down every tree?
Plastic ruins the world. Are you kidding?
But
Trees
it's
get
one time.
regenerated.
But see, Alicia makes a point. It's one time. I don't buy a fake tree every year.
It's one
But the
time.
plastic
and it lasts-
is-
I prefer a real tree, brother. I do. But when you get a certain age, you can't. It's harder to move it in and clean it up and do all that stuff and water it.
Kids,
You gotta-
don't you? You got kids.
Huh?
Yeah,
got
but they have
kids.
their own trees.
They're all
to get.
grown and doing their own thing.
All the more reason. Get over here and get my tree.
Well,
up.
you don't do real tree, Tom.
Oh
'cause you're
yeah,
never home.
absolutely.
Oh, you
Real
do?
tree. Yes.
Oh, I thought you didn't. 'cause
Well,
you're
I
never home
congratulate
anyways.
you. I congratulate anybody who does a real tree. I do prefer a real tree, but
Yeah.
we're not.
So,
doing real
if you have your very unholiday fake tree,
That I love. It's so
Is it-
beautiful.
colored lights or white lights?
White,
white.
non-blinking.
Well, you guys are
White.
all wrong.
No, the tree
Now,
in the
don't go
house.
with the white. Oh, the shine of light. Blah, blah, blah. The colors of the rainbow that the Lord and God put in the spectrum of the expanse and grandeur to show the different colors that everything can be. Oh yeah, no color.
Blah blah.
We'll just get it right rather than having to be right, Monty, because white is better.
Listen,
White lights are better.
the only reason they're white in the house is because the fake tree came with the crazy lights, which I hate because if they burn out, then you got to try to disconnect them from the limbs and all that stuff. But anyway, But the tree on our porch, we have one on our porch, and it's multicolored and fades in and out and does special effects and all that kind of stuff. You should see the outside of our house. So what we've done the projector thing all the way around the house because we live on a corner. You guys have seen it. And so we have snowflakes, thousands of them floating around, colored ones and white ones, and 2 giant gnomes attached to the porch, Christmas gnomes that are cutouts. You know, we got
Of course, there's gnomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very colorful and all that. It makes up for all this nonsense that our CEO over there is talking about. By the way, I needed to say this because some people don't know this. Tom Williams, that wonderful man that just criticized us and tore us down, he's the CEO of Came to Believe Recovery. Alicia Martinez is the senior volunteer, which means she does more work than Tom.
For free. And I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll keep doing it.
No. Anyway. So what was your other question? Oh, lights and what fake or real. You were going to ask, when do you put up the tree, right?
After Thanksgiving, he said, for sure.
I don't think that any Christmas holiday expressions whatsoever from the music in stores, anything should start till after Thanksgiving. Nothing. Thanksgiving, Christmas
I don't
Day.
care. Whatever. Who cares?
I get that, but being the old crotchety guy I am, if I'm going to get anything done before Christmas, I got to start early because I move a little slow. You know what I'm saying?
So my tree, when you have a real tree, that does put some time constraints on it. So it'll go up a week to 10 days before Christmas and stay up till after the first of the year. The weekend after the first of the year, it comes down. That's it.
I take mine the day after Christmas. It's gone.
Well, you know what? I knew somebody that took their tree and their live tree, and then when they were done with it at Christmas time, they put it in the backyard and let it dry out, and they shaved off all the limbs, and then they made a cross out of it and put it up at Easter.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I was going to do that. I left the tree out in the backyard, and then I never did it. It just sat out there.
And you guys can't do it because you have fake trees.
That's right. And
Yeah,
I'm happy about
ultimate
it.
laziness. And you're not even lazy, Alicia. You're not even lazy.
I'm not lazy. I'm effective.
Well, listen, I complain on Monday's show. My weekly whine was I was complaining about people that complain about this time of year, and because it drives me crazy that people, what do they have to complain about? There's beautiful lights everywhere. Beautiful music is playing. The prices are half off. You're mad because the prices are half off.
Well, the answer is complainers are complainers.
Yes,
They're going to complain all year round.
But then I discovered I was complaining about the complainers, and I became.
Oh, see? Oops. That's true.
Hey, we don't have any mail again this week. What happened to you, Gall? Where are you?
He's on vacation for a
he's
month.
on vacation. Okay.
Yes.
But we would love to hear from you. Please, if your questions, your comments, your opinions, whatever, please send us your email and address it. The email address is Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, going up right there on the screen at cametobelieverecovery.org. There you go. Right. Please send us your email. Go ahead, Tom.
Let me give you a tip about this shopping and some of the things that people get sucked into. You got to be really careful on, there's what?
I hear clicking too.
Oh, it went away. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You have to be very careful on, we're past it now, Black Friday sales, because many times they're just the price you could get anyway.
Yeah.
Many times they jack up the price and put a sale on it that makes it the same price anyway.
I know.
So you got to be really careful on that, and Cyber Monday on what's a real deal and what isn't.
That's over with, right? That was yesterday.
That was yesterday. And I tried to convince somebody yesterday and they just wouldn't listen, and I just let it go. It is very possible that as you get closer to the Christmases, you do get real deals. The prices go down even more.
Because they want to get rid of the
Day
stuff.
before
Yeah, you
Christmas,
bet.
when they have stock, the prices go down. Watch another 20% off.
I
They
bet.
say it is almost many things go down in price, and almost none of them, or none of them, go up from Black Friday. That is the same price you can get today. The Black
Yep.
Friday sale that
Yeah.
ended on Black Friday, if you go on today, it's the same price today.
I would
And when you
venture
get
to
closer
guess
to
that's
Christmas,
true.
they go down.
But some people like to just do it because it's a thing to do and they want to get
I
up
get it.
early and da la la la
I
la.
mean, Black
I
Friday's
don't, but
easy, but
people like to do
I
that.
did Black Friday at Best Buy one time and stood in a line early in the morning and then went through. They had to call your number and do all this nonsense. I felt like I was at a day at Disneyland from hell. You know what I
Right.
mean? The long lines. I never again, ever, never. I never did that again.
and then it's not our birthday. Why are we getting each other presents? That's the
I
whole
know.
philosophy.
Like, whose birthday do you think it is anyway?
No, it's not
We
ours.
can argue that it's not the exact date and all that
No, that
nonsense.
doesn't. I don't worry about that because this
I
is
don't
the day
either.
we celebrate it. It's fine, but nobody really knows the date. I don't think, right? But they think it was in the summer. It wasn't in the winter. But anyway, that I don't mind. I mean, we're celebrating it.
I don't.
We
Yeah,
know
we
it's not the
celebrate
actual
people's
date.
birthdays early all the time, right?
Yeah, and we're not faking like he was born then. We know that. It's just the
Right.
date that we're celebrating. Get over it.
Get over it. Hey, so I do have something for us though before we get to the topic that I thought would be a little fun once again. Hit it. Here we go.
Hey there, friends, gather round. It's Money the Man with stories profound. We're diving into tales both wild and bold. Time to play true or false. Let the fun unfold.
That's right. It's time for everybody's favorite podcast game, True or
True or
False.
false.
You can stump Tom and Alicia. And then we'll get to the topic. Okay, on Christmas Eve, so it's your job, you guys, to decide whether this is fact or fabricated. On Christmas Eve in 1971, a yacht captain named Neil O'Regan was stranded in the middle of the Atlantic after his vessel engine failed. His distress beacon was too weak to be picked up by aircraft, and the nearest shipping lane was hundreds of miles away. For 2 days, he drifted, dehydrated, losing hope. That same week, an American family in New England mailed a Christmas gift to a relative overseas, a bright red helium balloon with a note attached, simply wishing Merry Christmas, wherever this finds you. The balloon slipped loose before it could be packaged, drifted off, and never reached its intended destination. What happened next is absolutely incredible. On the morning of December 25th, Neil O'Regan saw something bobbing in the waves, a piece of red plastic. He paddled toward it, hoping it was debris he could use to catch rainwater so he could drink fresh water. Instead, it was the collapsed balloon with the Christmas note still attached. The note's ink was smeared, but the family had also written a return address. O'Regan had no radio signal, but his handheld emergency transmitter could send out one last faint burst. So he taped the red balloon to the top of the antenna to extend its height just enough to clear the waves. It worked. A passing cargo ship caught the boosted signal that afternoon and rescued him. Later, after recovering, he wrote to the family at the address on the note to thank them for the balloon that should never have been anywhere near the Atlantic, but saved the man's life. Is that story fact or fabricated?
I
What do you
say
think, Alicia?
true. I think
Lisa
true.
says it's true. What do
Well,
you think,
I mean,
Tom?
the level of detail would just, I mean, they're the best fantasy writer I've ever heard. So the level of detail is too
Too true to be
too
true.
complicated. And
Too
plus,
true to
all
not
right,
be true.
it's feasible. Raise the antenna to give him a little more range. I mean, that would probably work. A ship out in the ocean that doesn't have a strong enough radio, that I don't buy. But why would he ever go that far and know he doesn't have a radio that would be strong enough? You wouldn't do that. and not have a flare gun or da-da-da-da. So now I'm leaning the other way. All right, I just have to go the other way. I'm going to say not true.
Not true? Well, Tom, Alicia, you are correct. That is actually a true story. Da-da-da-da-da.
All right, let's move on.
All right, moving on, closing that out.
True or false, let's take a chance. Dive into the stories, let your instinct stand. Fiction or fact, just guess what you see. Step right up now, come play with me.
All right, we'll be right back. Listen to this.
The Salvation Army is more than just a red Cadillac Christmas.
It's a shelter for me and my children.
It's a place of recovery and hope.
It's a safe place to go after school.
It's a warm meal, a comforting word after you've lost everything.
When you donate to the Salvation Army, expect change.
Take 12 Recovery Radio, Came to Believe Recovery, and this podcast support the Salvation Army. To make your donation to the Salvation Army, visit salvationarmyusa.org. Welcome back to the show. This is the Came to Believe Recovery podcast with Tom and Alicia and myself. And the topic this week is trauma, big T and little t. So my question, I know you guys have talking points here and so forth, but my question is there really a little t? Isn't all is it subjective? I mean, your trauma may be that you were never hugged. Mine may be that I was hugged too much. Is that big T or little t? So let's discuss.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like our perception, right? Because two people can be in the same situation and one can be freaked out about it and the other one not. But our definitions, which we can read in a bit, I think emotional, is a little t, even though it could be huge. Big T is more of like bodily integrity and things that happen to you, I think. But Tom, what do you say?
Well, that's true, Alicia. Big T and small t. Well, here's what my research said, and just for you guys in the audience, none of us are certified therapists, so we're just talking about this. Guys, take none of this as advice on anything except to be aware of it and understand that being aware of it does lead you to go to see somebody that can help you with it. What I read, big T traumas can lead to PTSD, which is not all trauma is post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Right.
That's a separate thing. And that small T traumas don't lead to PTSD. That's what I read.
That's interesting.
So there's a difference. Things like, while a combination of small T's can be like a big T in reaction, they don't tend to result in PTSD. So that could be refuted by, again, guys, this is just some surface stuff that I've read.
Right.
But in general,
but then even in that example, two people could be in combat or something, and one could get PTSD, and the other one could be not so affected by it. So
what happens all the time? People can have terrible abusive homes as children and come out of it with no trauma at all. And others come out damaged, and some come through that with just a little, and us that weren't hugged or told that they love us, it crushes us for the rest of our lives, and we get all sorts of reactions. So yeah, it's a spectrum, this trauma thing, and it's individual, and how it presents in symptoms is, across the board, making it a very big subject.
Yeah.
And it's definitely controversial in the treatment world, amongst psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors and recovery coaches, et cetera, across the board. you have people saying, well, trauma, okay, maybe, but maybe you just need to learn how to get over it. And then you have other people that said, no, we've got to take this really seriously. There's some stuff going on. Now, I watched a news report last night about a man who he engaged in spitting on women, and a couple of guys cornered him and laid into him, which what they called street justice, and they beat the holy living daylights out of him. Now, they didn't beat him enough to kill him. They beat him enough to send a message, and people were like, well, that's street justice for this guy spitting on these women. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and some people said, oh, it was made up, it was staged, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But when people do stuff like spitting on other people in public or shaming people or whatever, isn't it true that hurt people hurt people? Is that just a buzz phrase, or isn't that true? Shouldn't we have some compassion towards these people that are doing these horrible acts? I mean, they're not sane acts, right? Something's wrong. But we just want to lynch them. And I'm not saying, well, they're misunderstood, so let them get away with it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't be so quick to put the guy in front of a firing squad. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if it's a trauma response and their behavior is from trauma, and a beating comes, I don't know that stops them from doing it again.
Right.
I mean, it's a consequence of what they did. But there are some things when you see somebody acting badly, just being a bully or doing, and getting a good smackdown does right size them, and they tend to not. It's not like it in all cases. Some pushback does not change behavior. I think it does sometimes. So that it's
you would say that reaction to that guy may be justified. You would say that?
I don't think beating somebody up is ever justified.
No, I'm saying doing it might cause him to change his those kind of activities. I'm not sure.
Depending on what's fueling his behavior. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Fair enough.
If someone, you catch a guy hitting on your girlfriend or they trying to get away with it, and you see somebody gets beat up, whether they should or not, I'm not saying, but that might make him think twice the next time. He might, to whether he wants to be careful about how he does that, knowing there's a consequence. I mean, I think the level of consequences does inform behavior on people. Not knowing you're going to jail if you do certain things absolutely keeps people from doing things. Normal people. But now here we go in. A trauma damaged person doesn't follow the same playbook.
Don't you think everybody has some sort of trauma in their life? Do you think that's a true statement?
Well, this is where we would go with where Monty would say some of it is get over it. You mean you've had some rough patches and you've had some things that you've had to deal with.
Yeah.
And I was going to go, I was going to talk about this. Certainly, I know Monty and all three of us, when we grew up, things that would be considered trauma things today, they'd call child services on our parents.
Yeah.
It's told to get over it. I mean, it was playground justice for me. If I came home and said somebody's bullying me, they didn't call the principals and bring in a psych therapist. There was no therapist at our school. And now there's therapists at every school,
Right. Dad just said, man up and deal with it. Mom would say, just ignore it.
Right. And you're 12 years old with a not generated brain, scared to death. You don't understand it. And you're sent back out into the playground. And so you develop coping mechanisms and shielding mechanisms that follow you for the rest of your life. And that happened to me, for sure. And I think a lot of people in my day, we had playground justice. You went out and we had to kind of work through a lot of these childhood things that the parents today coddle, and maybe they should, that we never got any help for any of that stuff. None of it.
Right.
So did it all, we all made it through. I mean, it wasn't just that led me to the dysfunction and maybe the alcohol and the addiction issues. It wasn't just that, because everybody that was in the 70s, all my friends at school had the parents that did the same thing. And not everybody turned out that way. So this lends to what was trauma and who's susceptible to it and what else is going on. So it's just a big subject that I do think can get over used, that we're just so worried about everybody's trauma that we can't can't say anything or can't do anything or can't, every
People
little
are so easily offended.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You're
So
kidding me?
I don't mean to go on, but I mean, my childhood, and there was more that I can point to today that absolutely led to me finding this comfort and peace and the love I didn't get in alcohol. It certainly did solve the problem, but it wasn't just those things. There were other things. I mean, when your parents never say they love you, that's small t eventually. I mean, and don't
But
listen
I bet
to you.
there's some people that had that same thing and they were like, whatever, it's fine. But because of your personality or your character, it hurt you deeper, maybe.
The science and the therapy would say that's totally true.
So here's a small T one that I think a lot of kids experienced. And let me preface it by saying this. In junior high, well, even in elementary school, but certainly in junior high, that seems to be the real battleground, at least out here in Oregon, California. And that is elementary school kids can be cruel, sure. You get into junior high, though, and that seems to be where the battleground really rages. And then you get into high school and people kind of come into their own. So in junior high school, I was the little fat kid. And I didn't realize it at the time, but there was the little skinny kid, too. And then there was the ultra shy kid. And then there was the guy that was the loudmouth. And then there was the clown. I mean, there were all these different assigned roles that we had that we didn't realize we had. You know what I mean? And so one of the things that I think every odd guy out or gal out experiences is in physical education class when you're the last person picked for the team. I would say that's a small T trauma. At least for me it was. It didn't affect the rest of my life like when I was sexually abused coming home from junior high school by older guys. And then afterwards being thrown in the briar bushes.
Well, that's a big T.
That's a big T.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting because to somebody else, being picked last for the team, depending on their level of ability to be able to deal with hardship or heartbreak, that could be seen as a big T trauma for them. I don't see it that way. I don't get that because it just kind of fell off to the wayside. When I got into high school, I came into my own, and you were not going to push me around anymore. And I used my artistic talent, my music talent, things like that to combat it. And what happened to me was the jocks on one side of me and the hippies on the other side of me, and I was the guy in the middle. But both of those characters wanted me to draw for them, wanted me to write songs for them, wanted me, you know what I mean? And that's how I made it through high school. My parents didn't teach me that. I don't know where that came from. Those coping you were talking about, the coping mechanisms. It just came, but not everybody's able to do that. And some people leave their education beaten and bruised, and you may not see it, but they're in trouble.
Yeah, sadly, to be honest.
Well, I think it is. I think it is a serious thing, and I look at it this way. You know how when it comes to child abuse, how the law and attorneys and everybody and their brother says you have to believe the child first. You have to. And
But
we'll
do
work out
they?
the details later. But you have to protect the child first. So you protect them first. Well, don't you believe me? I can't right now. I have to protect the child. You know what I mean? Why did I say that? I'm not sure. But
Even that, we've heard stories about kids that are at the age of knowing that fact and then could make something up just because they're mad at their dad, and then that could be a
happens
big
all the
old
time.
mess. Yeah. So it's just crazy with what happens with people.
Well, and I think this is where, to Tom's point, this is where qualified, experienced, trustworthy, good track record therapists are needed. They're
Yeah.
needed.
Don't they call them trauma informed,
Yeah.
something like that? Trauma informed
Well,
therapy.
we're supposed to be trauma informed too with what we do. Trauma informed doesn't
It doesn't
necessarily mean
necessarily
we
mean
do
that you
anything
have
about it.
Oh, so
single on
just
your
having
door.
awareness
Yeah.
around it.
So when we do in our case, when we do fifth steps or small groups, we just avoid things that might trigger somebody because we have people in ours that have big T trauma.
Yes.
And
Both big
so,
and little T.
they have the ACEs scores that are very high, and we don't do any of that. So what we want to avoid is triggering, and being trauma informed allows us to conduct these small groups as safely as possible. So, I mean, they're not just trauma informed; they have trauma informed treatment. I mean, they know how to treat the trauma. They go in at it because they do without triggering it. They want to treat it. So that's a thing. But trauma informed is probably something we all have to be. I mean, I think we are, the three of us. I'm informed enough. I
Yeah.
know how to be careful about things.
Do you guys think? Do you think especially in the last 5 years, there's been a surge of people becoming peer support specialists and recovery coaches?
Yes.
Well,
Do
maybe
you
because
think
you're in the
it's too
space.
easy to get that shingle put on your door?
I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it concerns me.
And they're getting paid for it, so it's like
Yeah.
a paid glorified sponsor.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, I'll
Could
get
be
in trouble for
helpful.
this too, but a lot of the peer support is, they embrace this many pathways thing. So
Right.
they come alongside you and kind of coach you through whatever and give you a lot of options. I just don't know how much recovery comes out of it with the peer support. And I'll get in trouble when somebody hears I don't know. But I do. I don't think it's that hard to be that.
So I will tell you. I mean, I'm a registered peer support specialist / adult addictions. I'm a board certified recovery coach. Now that sounds really professional.
Technical.
Board certified recovery
Well,
coach.
what board certified you?
The state of Oregon, the Oregon Health, where's my thing?
Board of Health.
Board of Health. Yeah. But let me tell you, it didn't take much. It took about 80 hours. That's it. About 80 hours of education. And I have to stay certified, I have to continue to do CEU credits, right? And webinars and things like that. And the reason I did it was the organization that I worked for required that I had that so they could, so there would be billable hours when I was working with the clients. Right.
So
I wasn't counseling them. I wasn't doing it. I was an education coordinator with addiction, 12-step addiction stuff, but I wasn't a therapist.
It's like personal trainers, right, Alicea? Everybody thinks
I got it online for nothing.
they get it in a weekend class. and they're seen as these experts that know nothing. It's
Well, I did
too
that.
easy to do that too.
Right.
It's way
Yeah.
too easy to get that too.
I totally did that.
Here's my thing with this board certified, which could really throw somebody, is to be a board certified surgeon or doctor. That's
Dude.
a
You gotta go
big
to med
deal.
school.
That's a big deal.
So you're board certified. Whoa, okay. So you might take that and go, oh, Monty's board certified.
Right.
You must have done some significant things to get that.
8 years of
Right.
medical school or something.
And then I see at the gyms, the master trainer, he's just the boss.
You can just slap on any name.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
you
not-
really could.
So
Now I take that very seriously. Personally, though, I take that very seriously. I stay on top of my continued education stuff. I do that stuff. But you know what? A lot of people don't.
But still, Monty, the level of competency to keep that, and this is no disrespect, but
Right.
you're not at a master's degree educational level that now you have to manage it.
Absolutely not.
You're maintaining it and same with a personal trainer. To stay certified, to do a couple of courses and exercise, there's not much to keep your certification
Right.
going.
It's not.
It's pretty simple. So I think you're right. And when I coach somebody to go to a therapist, if I say you should go to therapy, this is not giving them therapy. It's saying, sounds like you should go talk to somebody who could tell you what you really should do. I mean, I
Right.
tell people, MD psychiatrists, go to an MD psychiatrist if you really want the testing to see if there's some really pervasive mental illness, because they can do it. And then go to master's degree licensed clinical therapists. Licensed. Because see, that's a difference too, Monty. You're board certified. You're not licensed.
Not licensed.
License required, which means insurance, which means levels of accountability. Right. Go to someone who's a licensed therapist.
But even there, you got to be careful because
I
people just
know.
are not loving. And if they're not a Christian counselor, I'm not interested.
But you
And
know
so
what?
every level, there's something.
Yeah, I don't know about the Christian counselor thing, because I'm like, when I went to have my triple bypass, I didn't ask the guy if he was a believer. I want to know his credentials as a cardiologist, right? I could care less of who he called God. I want to know what kind of what kind of heart surgeon are you? So I'm kind of that way a little bit with the thing. There's a lot of Christian counselors out there that I would not trust with my recovery, just
I think
because they're
that's-
Christians.
Right. It's the person that we have to. look at. Oh, totally. Because look at it. People are people-y. Some
Right.
people are lower level 10 step takers, and some are obsessive about step 10 taker, and it depends on the person for sure.
There's a lot of really good qualified counselors out there, marriage counselors, addiction therapists, all that stuff that happen to be Christians. And they're wonderful people and they're very qualified. But just because a person's a Christian, I wouldn't be so quick to say, well, I'm not going to go to anybody unless they're a believer. You might be missing out on somebody that's really qualified to help you.
I would tend to agree in certain circumstances with you too, Monty, because if I'm working my 12 steps, which is what we do, right? You've got your spiritual malady under control and you're working that, and you're doing your 10, 11, and 12, and your recovery's in control, and you're growing your conscious contact with God, you're managing that, but then you have PTSD that needs to be addressed by a therapist. It doesn't need to be a Christian therapist. You're handling your Christian walk, right?
Right.
And that
Right.
therapist is going to do a thing for you. And if they're Christian or not, this is a legitimate technique to help you break it. And we all know that God helping us in our spirit to go to the right person and help with the healing, that's for us.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I don't know that it's so necessary. I went to a Christian marriage counselor way back when I went, and they came from a certain side of it that I wonder if they disregarded some science that we would say today wouldn't be anti-God, because science is really revealing just how God wonderfully created this thing we're in, and how
Yes.
it can be managed. I don't know why learning
Mhm.
about it and knowing how it isn't a God thing. I don't buy that. I think it could be. But I think sometimes they could disregard it, and then you're thereby getting shortchanged. So maybe that is that kind of where you were going with that, Monty?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bet. You
So
bet.
yeah, it
I
doesn't
want
have to be a Christian counselor. I mean, some people, you're right, won't go. It's got to be a Christian counselor. If they're not a Christian counselor, and I'm
well,
like, well,
and
I don't know. Let,
yeah. Well, it depends on the issue, maybe, of what you're
yeah,
going for. But I just want to throw out there, well, like with experience and MD and all that stuff. I was in counseling, gosh, 12, 13 years ago. And the EMDR, where they shift your brain and
yeah,
your noise thing, was just becoming a thing in like
Is that
2012.
the eye thing? Yeah.
Yeah, eye and
Right.
ear. And
Right.
she was just learning about it. So she wanted to kind of experiment on me. And I was like, sure. And it worked.
Yes.
And
It's
she
very
was not
helpful.
experienced yet, but it flippin' worked. It got a lot of, because I was also sexually abused. And so it messed me up.
Yeah.
And that lifted some stuff that was lifted. I mean, it was pretty incredible.
I have heard
And
nothing
and
but
I was
good
like, this
things
is
about it.
so dumb, because she was like doing this and the beep beep and the
Right.
ear, and I'm like, this is so stupid. But it worked. It totally worked.
Right.
So I would try EMDR, you guys, if you can.
yeah. No,
It works.
I'll let me step back to the Christian thing again. Now, I would say maybe if you were going to marriage counseling or premarital counseling,
Mm-hmm.
that their spiritual walk and beliefs can matter how a Christian or non-Christian counselor would counsel a marriage or
Absolutely.
premarital.
Totally.
Because a
Totally.
premarital counselor that's not Christian isn't telling you not to have sex before marriage, maybe. They
And
might
they'll
be
be
helping you
okay with
manage that
certain
relationship
things.
and telling you, some of them might be telling you you should have it before marriage to make sure you're compatible
Right.
in therapy, which in their world is legitimate. And then a Christian
Right.
counselor is going to go by a different set of ethical and moral code. So that might make a big difference to go to a marriage counselors that are
I think you're right
aligned.
on the money there, Tom. Because if if you are a believer, because now we're talking about a spiritual well-being. We're talking about a
Yeah.
spiritual relationship, a covenant relationship that is
Mhm.
spirit bound to spirit. And so you need to have somebody who's spiritual to be able to help you through that. And if you are a Christian, if you're both Christians, it just makes sense to have somebody who's on the same page as you when it comes to spiritual issues. Because if you don't, you're right. They may be well meaning, but they may lead you down a path where
Right.
certain compromises are okay. And okay, well, maybe, because I knew this one counselor who wasn't the great counselor in every area, but when it came to marriage, it was like, well, you can live together, just don't sleep in the same bed before marriage. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Temptation is too close.
sure. Yeah, let me know how that works out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know pastors that are good. They've had the education. They're good marriage counselors, and there's a group of them here in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. They will not marry a couple who is currently living together and having sexual relations with each other prior to marriage. They say, listen, if I'm gonna counsel you, I'm gonna
Hmm.
help you do this, but you're gonna move out, and then we're gonna work on this relationship thing before we have the marriage ceremony. But you guys aren't going to be living together. We're not going to do it. And there's a bunch of pastors that have agreed to follow those guidelines, and I think that's healthy. Some people are going to think that I've lost my mind, but
Hmm. But again, it's on everybody. You got to meet people where they are. Some people will hear that and think you're crazy.
yeah,
Some people totally agree, and
Well, I mean,
everybody's on a
but
different level.
the beauty of this is that we're in America, and you can go to a different counselor. There's somebody that'll marry you
Mhm.
if you want to just do this. So, they're
yeah,
not
Mhm.
sure,
Mhm.
not making you do anything. So it's not
Mhm.
forcing their religion on you. You just go. There's priests and pastors in places that won't. They might say you're not living together, but they don't question You tell them whatever you want, and they're going to marry
Right. Yeah.
you. And but
Oh yeah, it's too. I think
um,
it's just yeah, on a whole other. This is I don't want to go around a rabbit trail here, but
yeah,
I think it's way too easy to get married in this country and way too easy to get divorced. Just saying.
yeah. So, I mean, back to the
Bring us back
trauma.
to trauma.
You know,
Trauma.
the things that really I don't understand because I don't have experience with it. I have this experience with what I would call, the damage that my parents did to me, the programming that they made in me, the things that I had to work through, and would be under the category of small T trauma for sure. But I was never in, combat watching a buddy's head blown off next to me. I've never had to blow somebody's head off and see that kill somebody. I've, rape victims, the trauma of that, the violation is so intense to the brain, it shuts people down forever. This stuff can lead to all kinds of screwed up things in life. And
And I think it's more prevalent than we know. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that I have been shocked about over the years is that the amount of, and I hear this because I don't ask the questions. I've heard it from like Alicea and others, and you can read about this, that the amount of women who are in addiction that were abused by their fathers or a family member is shocking.
Very high.
Yes.
So high.
Shocking. When we have a group of 30 or 40 women come and 25 or 30 of them say someone in their family or their father sexually abused them or raped them, you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just intuitively, I would think this would be a rarity, but it is not.
It's not.
Apparently.
It's not.
So what are we doing for, and all the years that went by that nothing was done for them? There was no level of trauma therapy because they hadn't studied it so much. So in this regard, all the study around trauma and all the therapies is a good thing. Because if we can relieve them from this, because of the techniques today that they've come, and we know about neuroplasticity, and we know that God has designed you a brain that can be rewired, there really can be relief from it. And Alicea, you had a story of it. There can be relief of this. So there is good news.
I would say too that is certainly not to the degree that women have experienced it, but it's more and more. We're finding out more and more men have experienced that kind of trauma as well. And
I think, sadly, that men are just too afraid to admit it and not being totally honest, maybe. Monty, don't you think?
Well, I think we're still, you would think that we've grown past this, but we haven't. We're still, our thinking as a society is that, big boys don't cry, which means a lot of stuff. And it means we don't talk about it. And you're the man, so you can deal with that. You can. I remember when my dad passed away. He had cancer, and it was a blessing that he passed away. And they put him in the body bag, and my mom was there, and I'm there, and they're zipping up the body bag, and my mom looks at me and she goes, "Don't you cry, don't you do it." And I'm like, I have regretted not allowing myself to cry that day. I've regretted that. But what's that say about some of her traumas, right? She couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it. If I broke down, she was going to lose it. Right? And so she was protecting herself, But we have this mindset that men are supposed to be able to deal with these things and let them roll off your back more, and then you got to remember, guys, we're dealing with a world today that is making men look like wimps. Right? They're look at the commercials. Look at the sitcoms. They're stupid. They don't do anything right. They're mamby-pamsy. You know what I mean? And so what man wants to say, "I've been raped"? Nope, not going there. I got a family to raise. We're not going there.
Or, and I am assuming, and I've heard a few things, that many men at the retreats have assaulted and done things to people.
They've been the
So
assaulter.
they're,
Yes.
yes, they were abused and they were the abuser. So then that's a technical
That's
place to
traumatic.
be in and to hear and be open and have them say it out loud.
Well,
And
can you imagine them, and if they have a a spiritual awakening and they realize the trauma they caused someone else can be traumatizing. The
Absolutely.
guilt and the shame of what they've done. I mean,
but they
yeah,
are
it's a real
forgiven and
thing.
they're a new creation and now they can help other people. But
Yeah,
that's a hard space to be
it's
in.
a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
There are people listening right now that are going, I don't get it.
well,
Don't get what trauma is?
Well, some people just haven't experienced any of this stuff.
yeah, I
Well,
I
and
mean,
I
don't.
think
I don't think there's anybody that doesn't know somebody at least that has. Don't you think?
yeah,
I think everybody has something.
I mean,
And if not, they're not being
yeah,
honest.
it's more and more coming out that people in addiction and having behavioral issues in later in life, whether it's addiction or not, behavioral issues, it is more and more traced back to
Trauma.
adverse childhood experiences. It's
Yeah.
traced back to their young days, and parents who were well-meaning and didn't mean a thing, but trace my parents were well-meaning. They didn't know what they were doing and not doing. They were passing on what was given to them.
Yeah.
And but I had to work. When I look back, yeah, I working through all this stuff. My first reaction to go to the negative, that's my mother. My hard to say I love you is because no one ever said I love you to me. Hard to show emotion. It was not good to show emotion, Monty, in my house either. It was seen as kind of weakness and sensitive. They didn't know what to do about it. Tom was a
Yeah.
little sensitive.
Right.
They wouldn't put any creed. It was just get over it. Just, it's not a big deal. And then my little boy brain didn't know what to do with that. So you stuff it down because you still felt freaked out anyway.
Because it's
It's
still
more,
there.
right? So
Yeah.
that we know it, you can get them talking about it. And I think that's where the therapy comes in. And some will come and talk in a non-therapy setting with us and start working through it. And it doesn't take a therapist, guys, all the time to
Nope.
work through this stuff. All right. I didn't go to therapy, but I used the 12 steps. I used the process that is being taught in this. I was honest with myself. I spoke with people. I got accountability and I worked through this stuff. And so it does not always take a therapist. Don't think you're just doomed to trauma and we all have to go to therapy. But
But you
it
might
can
want
be.
to. Something
Yeah.
might come up at a retreat, and then you can always go to more counseling later, which is a step 10, right? Continuing
Yeah.
and
But that's
continue
the
to
other
grow.
thing.
And
You're not all, I guess, and I wouldn't not, I would not want to tell you that, oh, I have small T trauma. Tom said maybe I don't have to go to therapy. Don't ever, I'm not saying
Right.
that.
Right.
I'm saying there are people who in actuality can get over this and do live lives clean of the effects of the trauma without going to therapy. But I would let a therapist tell you that. Now, go to one who tells you don't need to come. Tell me that number, right? Because they all.
Sometimes a fifth step hearer can be part of the very first time a person's ever even voiced that they've been through something.
Often.
And it can be the I'm thinking of
Often.
I won't it's too sensitive to even say where it was, but I was listening to a fifth step one day and the gentleman just started weeping. Just started weeping. And he looked like a tough guy. You know what I mean? He had that persona, Mr. Rough and tumble. And he just started weeping and his whole demeanor changed on his face. And he looked at me. He said, this is the first time I have ever spoken about this to anyone. And I'd only known the guy for a few hours. But it was the right time. God was in the middle of it. Right. And, I recommended that he see somebody that could help him specifically in the area that he shared with me. But that opened up dialogue that started the healing process that had been haunting him for years. And I'm telling you, to be part of that, oh man, it does something to you.
Yeah, I've had that quite a few times, and it's like miraculous how it's only God. That's because someone too, I'm not going to say where, had said, and she was shaking to the fact, like, I've never said this before. I don't think I can do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. So it took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then she finally said it, and it triggered a memory in myself because I had done the same thing, and we were just crying together, and it was just, and that's happened a few times to me.
Sure.
And it was just amazing. Like, me too. And she couldn't believe it because it's a big, bad thing.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I did it too.
Yeah.
And then they're safe, they're seen, they're not alone. She thought she was the only one on earth that ever did it. I'm like, nope, I did it.
And again, to Tom's point, you don't have to be a therapist, and we're not saying that you shouldn't be. There's a lot of people, there's things we're just not qualified to do. But you know what? This whole this whole inventory process, or even step one, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge, so you have to acknowledge there's a problem, and then you get this inventory and the amends thing and the confession and all that stuff. 12-steppers have been doing this for decades, successfully, right? And nobody's getting paid for that. They're just doing it. One addict reaching out to another. What is it? I think it's in Narcotics Anonymous that says the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
Now I will say that the beauty of the steps is too that what may have led, it often leads to somebody being able to say the things they say in a fifth step with us, is because they've been led through that process at the beginning, which is you're powerless. You can't do anything. It frees them up to say, oh, you mean I shouldn't be able to, this idea that I'm trying to control this is part of the whole reason why I'm in failure. And then we introduce them to a God, and they get hope and they get touched.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they have the courage to come out and say something, because now they see the potential for healing and they see it. Is the reason why the fifth step doesn't come before the third step.
Exactly.
Right.
And so we see it there because we've created a condition where people, when they walk in the door on Friday night, they're not telling you anything like that. It's not even in their head that this is coming out. But we see it time and time again.
Yep.
And then they go through this open up process and they get touched by the living God that we know is there. And all of a sudden they do say it, and they're free. And they're different people Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
And guys, if you're listening to this, I know a lot will be in the Salvation Army, but many are not. You just can't, we're not overstating the miraculous change that comes over someone. And this is part of it, this freedom from getting out from under things that they thought were just their doom and demise for the rest of their lives. And I think a lot of it falls under small T trauma. And if it's nothing but I've recognized it, and now I'm going to go fix it, whatever that takes, that's the healing. And that's what we preach. Get them started and pointed towards the pathway to freedom.
Yes. And you guys, we do have a virtual retreat open for the whole world, January 9th and 10th. So go to the website, cametobelieverecovery.org, and you can sign up for the virtual retreat, and we can get you through the steps in 2 days.
And it does work virtually.
It does work
It does.
virtually.
It does. So give the date again, January 9th
January
and
9th and 10th, I believe. It's a Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday.
It's on the website.
And yours truly's are going to
Yes.
Right? Monty and I will
leading
be
you through most of it.
part of the steps.
Yeah. Alicia and I will be doing it. Yeah.
And then the next week we're going to be in San Diego again, back at the ARC. So we got that.
San
We got a year
Diego.
ahead of us,
Yeah.
And
powerful
guys,
stuff.
I'm here in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to meet with Prison Fellowship tomorrow.
Oh, that is exciting.
You
Yeah,
know,
Prison
another
Fellowship.
group to
Yeah.
talk about how we could bring this into the prisons, which have terrible addiction rates.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
You know what? Let me just say this: when I see guys coming to a 12-step meeting and they just got out of prison and they go, "Well, I don't count my clean time in prison because it's prison. I stayed sober, but I don't count it because I was in prison." You should count it.
I would
Right.
think so.
Because guess what? It was way easier for me to have access to narcotics when I was in prison than it was outside of prison. Don't you kid
Really?
yourself?
That's what I heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was getting brought in by the guards. It was getting brought in by, let me tell you, yeah,
Wow.
prison is not a safe place if you're trying to stay clean and you don't have any tools to do it.
So
Wow.
bringing these tools that work here in,
Yes. It's so needed, Tom. So needed.
you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Guys,
hoping that we can do it.
yeah. Yeah. We'll be praying about that. We are out of time, and I have something a little different for us at the end of this broadcast this time. Because of the time of year that it is, we don't have a closing song, but we have a reading. Are you guys familiar with Paul Harvey?
No, I'm not.
Alicia's not. Tom, you're involved in the area. He's probably America's favorite journalist, commentator. The guy was amazing. He's no longer with us, but Paul Harvey reads this. We don't know the author of it, but I thought it was appropriate for this time of year and really think about what is being said here as we close out this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery Podcast. Remember to reach out to us at cametobelieverecovery.org for dates of retreats and the virtual retreat. And please send us your emails and comments to Monty, M-O-N-T-Y, at cametobelieverecovery.org. All right. This is entitled The Man and the Birds. Pay close attention to what's being said.
The man I'm talking about was not a Scrooge now. He was a kind, a decent, a mostly good man, generous to his family and upright in his dealings with other men, but he just did not believe in all of that incarnation stuff which the churches proclaim at Christmas time. It just did not make sense, and he was too honest to pretend otherwise. He could not swallow the Jesus story about God coming to earth as a man. He told his wife, "I'm truly sorry to distress you, but I'm just not going with you to church this Christmas Eve." He said he'd feel like a hypocrite, that he'd much rather just stay home, but that he would wait up for them. So he stayed, and they went to the midnight service. Now, shortly after the family drove away in the car, snow began to fall. He went to the window to watch the flurries getting heavier and heavier. Then he went back to his fireside chair, began to read his newspaper. Minutes later, he was startled by a thudding sound, and then another, then yet another. At first, he thought somebody must be throwing snowballs against the living room window. But when he went to the front door to investigate, he found a flock of birds huddled out there miserably in the snow. They had been caught in the storm. In a desperate search for shelter, they had tried to fly through his large landscape window. That was what had been making the sound. Well, he couldn't let those poor creatures just lie there and freeze. So he remembered the barn where his children stabled their pony. That would provide a warm shelter. All he would have to do is direct the birds into that shelter. Quickly, he put on a coat and galoshes, and he tramped through the deepening snow to the barn, and he opened the doors wide. And inside the barn, he turned on a light so the birds would know the way in. But the birds did not come in. So he figured that food would entice them. He went back into the house and fetched some breadcrumbs and sprinkled those on the snow, making a trail of breadcrumbs to the yellow-lighted, wide-open doorway of the stable. But to his dismay, the birds ignored the breadcrumbs. The birds just continued to flop around helplessly in the snow. He tried catching them. He could not. He tried shooing them into the barn by walking around them waving his arms, but instead they scattered in every direction except into the warm, lighted barn. And that's when he realized that they were afraid of him. They were afraid of him. To him, he reasoned, I'm a strange, terrifying creature. If only I could think of some way to let them know that they can trust me, that I'm not trying to hurt them, but to help them. But how? Any move he made tended to frighten them and confuse them. They just would not follow. They would not be led or shooed because they feared him. And he thought to himself, if only I could be a bird now, if I could be a bird and mingle with them and speak their language and tell them not to be afraid, then I could show them the way to the safe, warm barn. But I would have to be one of them, wouldn't I? So they could see and hear and understand. At that moment, the church bells began to ring. The sound reached his ears above the sounds of the wind, and he stood there listening to the bells, listening to the bells pealing the glad tidings of Christmas, and he sank to his knees in the snow. I hope for you and those you love, this will be a wonderfully Merry Christmas.
Came to Believe Recovery strives to create and promote opportunities for life-changing spiritual experiences for individuals and families suffering from all forms of addiction. For more information, help, and support, visit cametobelieverecovery.org. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be your host on this episode of the Came to Believe Recovery podcast. And I would encourage you to like, bookmark, and subscribe to this show. When you do, you will join the Take 12 Recovery Radio family and will be notified of all of our recovery-focused shows throughout the week. Until our next broadcast, when we provide the essential spiritual tools needed to thrive by sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope through our stories of how we came to believe.
This has been a production of Take 12 Recovery Radio.
Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty. Meow.
Woof, woof.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.